we'll continue going through the list of questions that we have. Um, okay, so let's just start off with something that's technical. First thing, I guess, one of the questions was, is D5 oil still a thing in the business? If not, what replaces it?
D5. That's that was every watchmaker's magic oil. Well, right now I believe it's still in circulation, although their industry replacement within most of the traditional Swatch Group brands and maybe Richemont as well is a 1300. I believe Rolex uses 1000, but everyone uses a combination of either 1000 or 1300 to replace uh, the D5.
Now, did you think there was anything wrong with D5?
No, I personally didn't think anything of it, but it's the issue with D5 things I believe over time is um, the degradation of the oil itself. It starts to get really clumpy.
And that's due to the animal. That's due to the animal oil inside, right?
I don't know what composes D5.
Yeah, no,
So,
D5 has animal oils in it, so
oh,
it has natural oils in it, which causes the clumping.
mm,
Yeah,
okay, yeah, that would make sense. Whereas the newer ones that the industry uses now, they're all
synthetic for the most part.
synthetic
Yeah,
and engineered to not have issues like this.
yeah. What's your favorite oil actually?
God. Um, I mean, I don't know. It's a combination of it, right? Like, obviously 1300, 9010. There are times, I use 1000 as a replacement 1300, 9415 for escapement. Uh, but then my choice of grease is actually Mollycott.
Malika.
A lot of people don't like it, like, and not they don't. I mean, everyone has different results with it, right? I I like it, So
What are your thoughts on the 9500, the blue one?
90. Oh, the blue one.
Yeah, the blue
Uh,
one. I like how you
the
knew. I like how you knew what I meant when I said the blue one.
Yeah, Chrono Grease is black. The blue one's the 90 95. Whatever the number is.
Hmm.
Um, so I think the viscosity it's a decent grease, but the issue lies in the viscosity of it. It's too fluid,
Hmm.
So like with Molly, you'll put a dash of Molly on a part somewhere, and it'll it'll stay there for the most part. But if you put the other grease, it just runs. Like
Wasn't
it
there a
leaks over the place.
wasn't there a problem with Mollycott when it came to the cleaning machine? I'm pretty sure a lot of industry brands actually got away from it because they said that it would destroy their cleaning machines.
So what I heard was that it wouldn't clean well,
Uh,
right? And the issue is, I think, not so much the machines or the lubrication itself, but more so the person doing the cleaning, right? So normally, we all pre-clean, right? So if you take a piece of wood or you clean that gunk off, then that wouldn't have the issue. For the most part, people won't. They'll just disassemble, throw it into a basket, and then dunk it in the machine without having to do an actual pre-clean beforehand, right? So
yeah.
that one extra step makes a world of difference of maintaining your equipment, maintaining your cleaning solution, and also ensuring that the timepiece is properly and thoroughly clean.
Now, what are your thoughts on pre-cleaning? Do you? I mean, a lot of people in the industry actually don't really do it for some particular reason, but I know it's the surefire way to ensuring damn near almost perfect result. Um, but I know a lot more watchmakers actually don't pre-clean, as opposed to other watchmakers who actually do.
I think it's more so the brand that you're dealing with. I know for higher end brands, um, watchmakers I know of and watchmakers watch watchmakers I used to work for, we do it, right? But for,
Hmm.
for, let's say, if you're servicing, let's say, 2 or 3 2892s, maybe you really don't have to pre-clean, because if you pre-clean, instead of doing 2 or 3, you're doing 1.5 or maybe 2, because the extra step bleeds into your productivity and your KPIs and all that
Now,
technical mumbo jumbo bullshit.
do you require your watchmakers to pre-clean?
Um, I do, but sometimes, like I said, sometimes they don't want to, right? And
Yeah.
everyone has their own style, and it's hard to force. Like, if I like eating halal food, it's hard to force my flavored style food onto someone else they don't like it, right? It's like, no, you must eat this like amazing gyro. And they don't, it's not
See,
it's not it's not up to it's not up to me to decide what they should do, right? I can give them a guideline, and then whether they adhere by it, that's on them. But when the watch comes back, mostly you're like, hey, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? It's like, no, 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 and all right, therein lies the problem.
I found that in my early years, actually, when I started to notice a drastic reduction in comebacks and in client issue repairs when I actually started pre-cleaning.
Yeah,
And usually I found when I pre-cleaned, I actually found more problems than when I didn't.
yes.
And what ended up happening is actually that the first, I mean, how long does pre-cleaning really take you? Honestly, it doesn't take that much long. It doesn't take that much longer than if you didn't pre-clean. It's just a
I
little bit
mean,
more tedious because you have to, do the pegwood and you gotta clean the jewels.
I
But other
mean,
than that, I think it actually gave me better amplitude, better readings on the watches, and it helped me catch more problems than if I didn't.
yeah. So part of my disassembly process, included the checks and the pre-clean. Because there's sometimes when you do the initial checks of like the end shakes and like the tolerances for different wheels and the play between the barrel arbor and the barrel bushing. Like you do those initial checks. Sometimes you won't catch things, and then like once you really start going into it, you're like, wait a minute, how come something that I thought was dirt is not coming off? And you put it under a microscope and it's a cracked jewel. You know?
Yeah, like one thing that happened when I used to when I worked for one of the big companies, and they made it mandatory that you needed to pre-clean, and you actually had to purchase pre-cleaning jars to so that you don't get your original cleaning
Yep.
jars dirty.
Yep.
And one thing I don't like about the pre-cleaning process is actually how they leave the mainspring barrel inside. That always kind of gets me sometimes.
Why?
Because the justification is that you should remove as little as possible and then run it through the cleaner.
Oh,
So
I
the
see.
original pre-cleaning process really just required you to remove the calendar so that you don't damage the calendar. And you removed the oscillating weight, and you remove as much of the automatic system as possible, so that it's just a bare movement with the mechanical gear chain, pallet fork, and balance wheel, everything intact. And you actually just run it through the pre-cleaner in that form itself. So you don't even
What
remove the barrel. You don't remove nothing. That was the original pre-cleaning process that always got me.
what solution? What solution did the pre-clean get run through?
Regular cleaning solution. So your regular first one with ultrasonic, and then your regular rinsing solution. So the reason why they had you purchase separate cleaning jars was to clearly separate the pre-cleaning jars from the regular cleaning jars. And the biggest problem for me was that the lubricants in the mainspring barrel. Um, some of these companies swear by saying that there's nothing really wrong with doing that. But in Watchmaking 101, everyone always tells you never to put the mainspring inside the cleaning solution. Um, and I guess,
You know why, right?
yeah, of course.
Okay.
But you want to enlighten you want to enlighten the listeners?
Oh, it strips the coating because the mainspring comes pre-coated from the factory. Um, you know, so that when you actually don't run it through the cleaners, the ammonia in the rinse solution doesn't strip that coat that's on the mainspring. Um, but listen, people have been cleaning mainsprings for years. and then they've recoded it, right? And then back then people used to put D5 all over the mainspring so that it would have the coat of oil on it.
You want to know something funny? I was actually taught when you get a brand new mainspring, I was taught that you shouldn't um you shouldn't lubricate the mainspring right away. You should actually clean the mainspring before using it,
So strip the mainspring of the lubrication.
and then re-lubricate it. Yeah. So you were taught to clean it off. I mean, back in the days, you were taught to clean it off with solvent H, and then from there re-lubricate it with 8200 slightly. You
Mm.
would run it straight down through the entire mainspring, and you would install it that way.
Mm.
But that's old school. I don't. I mean
I'm
that.
glad watchmaking is not. It's not. We're not using a sperm whale right now for lubrication.
Well, yeah, you're right. We're not. But
Thank you for the
um,
engineering feats of the watch industry.
yeah. I mean, speaking of sperm whale, I mean, what do you think? Do you like the old process better? Or do you like the new process better? Because the old process, people would actually their watches would automatically clump up every 3 to 4 months, and that would require new service. That would
You
require
know,
additional service, but
you know,
that maintained the parts and pivots and wheels and pinions and everything.
back in the days, at every train station there was a watchmaker to maintain all the clocks and everything. So
Oh, I didn't know
I
that.
mean,
Really?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Those old Hamilton rail watches. There was almost a watchmaker at every stop.
Really?
Yeah,
That's a shit ton of watchmakers.
yeah. I mean, there was a shit ton of those rail watches because they would synchronize the time um, on
Oh,
the
I see
train
what you're
card.
saying.
You
Oh, you're
know,
saying like
so
on the transcontinental trains where they
yeah,
go
yeah, yeah,
across America
yeah.
or something?
Yeah,
Oh.
well, they weren't on the trains itself. I believe they were in the station. So
Oh.
when you would dock in, they were like, here's the rail watch, and they would ensure that all the other timepieces are up
Now,
to
were they contract workers or were they paid
I'm
for the
pretty sure.
government?
I
I
was
don't know.
pretty sure they were employed by the railroad.
Oh shit, that's pretty cool. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow, look at you, Henry. I didn't
So, and
know that.
only reason why I knew this is at my employee at Swatch Group. Most of you guys are in North America. You'll probably know this name, Dan Fenwick. Um, but this guy is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to like vintage American watches, and he obviously retired after like 45 years of service at Swatch Group. And that
Fenwick,
wasn't
yeah, yeah.
that wasn't intentional, right? Like he was working at Hamilton. Hamilton got bought by Swatch Group, and then he went to go work somewhere else. And that company got bought by Swatch Group. So everywhere he went, he just
Owned
ended
by
up
Swatch
staying with
Group.
Swatch Group, essentially. So
Wow. Jeez, I didn't know that.
yeah,
Hmm. That was an interesting segue.
yeah.
All right, so let's see what other questions
Yeah.
we have.
Tell me what else you want to learn.
Someone
Tell me,
sent in a
tell me,
question.
tell me what else I can teach you. I will show you something.
The next question is, do you have to go to school to be a great watchmaker?
Here's the thing. No, you don't. But if you're making your own watch, it helps if you have um, the correct schooling, right? George Daniel never went to school for watchmaking, but if he did, it would have solved. He would have made his watch a lot easier because he wouldn't be testing trial and error.
So, I mean, it's kind of tough. I mean, what do you think? Do you think going through schooling increases it shortens actually. I'm sorry. Do you think going to school shortens the time span it takes to learn watchmaking instead of going through trial and error?
It helps, of course. It's like the equivalent I have this for is you don't need a business degree to run a business, but it
Oh,
helps.
true, true,
You don't
true.
need running shoes to run, but it helps.
You know, having done both, I mean, I think. What do you think about the theory section of it, the watchmaking theory section? Because I think watchmaking theory is one huge aspect that's neglected, as opposed to
You know,
your traditional.
it depends on where you are in your watch education or in your watchmaking, right? Because we all went to school and we all told the calculus teacher, algebra teacher, we're never going to use this shit in real life. Like,
I still.
but then I still exactly right. But then, but what if your career choice is engineering and dealing with like making buildings or working on like structural design and critical infrastructure, then you better be sure your math is on point. You know what I mean? So it depends on where
Mm,
you are in your watchmaking. It will correlate into what you think your focus should be. So if you're sitting there making parts all day and prefabricating, vintage Patek pinions, then yes, I'm pretty sure it's important to learn the gear ratio and dimensions and all the other calculations that you need to be able to properly make the part and have the part work for the watch. But if you're sitting at Swatch Group or you're sitting in a major brand and like you have everything readily available, then that maybe not so economical.
so what you're trying to say is essentially it just depends on which field in the watchmaking industry you go into. So if you're a watch repairer, or if you go into the service side where only thing you do is service, then you shouldn't really need theory.
Again, theory is good, right? You should learn it. But what I'm saying is whether it's applicable, whether you use it again, that heavily depends on what you get into in the field.
Funny thing you say that, because I mean, before I did the schooling, I feel like I think there were a lot of things in the schooling process that actually opened my eyes to certain things. And those golden nuggets have changed different aspects of watchmaking for me. But to say that schooling is necessary outside of those golden nuggets I've got, I think is I don't think is right to say. So like I used to hire a bunch of LWT graduates, and the first thing they have is essentially all that they have all that theory behind them, but no practical application yet. Or if they do have practical application, it's bound to one model or one brand or a couple specific movements, and instead of being able to
Rolex. Oh,
and
sorry. Did I say that?
don't get me wrong though. I mean there's smart individuals. I think it's a right step toward it's a good direction. It's a good step in the right direction and whatnot. But I still feel that one critical aspect that schoolings need to do is the practical aspect. Instead of just exposing them to one movement or whatnot, have them work on watches that are chaotic in the sense where there's no control. You know what
Nothing
I
in
mean?
life. Go ahead. Sorry.
No. I don't know. Long story short, I think what I'm trying to say is that real life aspect. It doesn't have to make sense. There's no common sense. There's no logical step sometimes. Sometimes things just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, listen, I feel like what you said was spot on. And even to add to that, nothing beats experience, right? You can have all the theory in the world. If you have no experience, then it's just theoretical.
Mm.
There's no practical aspect of your theory, and that doesn't translate into real world, right? Like, so are you going to sit there and try to prefabricate a part for a $200 watch, or is it more economical for you to put the watch aside, order a part, and just move on with it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, do you think that going through the trial and error section, and like not avoiding school but skipping the school section and start getting hands-on experience is a fast tracked way to becoming a watchmaker? Or
For
do you
sure.
think, okay,
Yeah, because I mean, if you look at combat medics, right, when they're deployed in war, like some of these guys, they don't have, um, they're not they're not their schooling is all theory for them on how to like suture and how to like deal with like combat wounds. But when they're in like the zone and someone's bringing you one of their soldiers and he's gushing blood, it's like that's when shit really hits the fan, right? Nothing beats that like that trial, that pressure, and it just makes a diamond.
yeah. I mean, I think the fastest way to get into watchmaking is actually just start repairing watches. Especially in the current state of the industry right now, where I mean, you have a few. you have fewer and fewer watchmakers each year in the sense of repairing watches and whatnot.
Yeah, no, I agree, right? Like that's how you learn as a watchmaker. Like first you start taking stuff on, and you're like, wait, how do I do this? Or and then you begin asking questions. Then you do your research. Then it's like, well, if I'm making a case, how do I solder the the lugs to the case to a watch case? Then there's a course for that. Then you go take that course. Then you learn something, and then you apply it.
Mm. I think this is a perfect segue. Actually, the next question is actually, do you like being a watch? In terms, I'm gonna read it as is because it sounds a little confusing. Do you like being a watch repairer or watch creator? And I'm taking this question in the sense where do you enjoy the repairing side of watchmaking, or do you enjoy the uh, creation side, the fabrication, the manufacturing side of watchmaking?
Both. I genuinely enjoy both. Right. So right now I'm in talks with a couple guys in Switzerland, work on like a hush hush project for a private client here in New York. But part of it is manufacturing stuff and specking out the designs and going to different really high end independent watchmakers and sourcing parts for this special watch or it's a special project I'm working on. And then on top of that, I have another client in Singapore that we're talking with, where we're designing. He's going to be featuring independent watchmakers movement design. So I'm
Oh,
in talk with another a couple people in Switzerland for to be able to assist design or help me with the design I have in mind.
now
And it'll be a collaboration, obviously. So because it's not like I'm going to feature them because I'm the design part of it and they did all the labor. So
so when you say you did the design, you saying you did like the CAD drawing, or you did the physical drawing, or are you actually
yeah,
creating
like
and designing it?
no, it's a 6798, I believe, and just changing some
67,
stuff around. Oh,
60,
6498. Yeah,
64.98.
sorry.
I was about to say
Yeah,
67.98, man.
new caliber, buddy.
New caliber.
That's a WMP caliber.
All right, so what you're assisting
No,
with the 64.98?
yeah. So it was a project scope that was specced out from a guy in Singapore or a well-known watch brand in Singapore. He's reaching out and kind of establishing his base in New York, and part of it was to find partners like myself and kind of like to manage his after sales service aspect of it, so that he can focus on selling, whereas my team here can focus on actually doing most of the servicing and stuff that he won't have to worry about shipping back and forth between countries. So
Hmm. Okay. All right, so let me get to the next question. Um, this one's from Tony. Tony from the group from the VIP chat. Um,
Anthony,
he says, how do you and Henry keep enjoying your craft after all these years? What does it imply? By my question, I meant you both went through a lot of places and had a lot of experiences in the field. Could you summarize your path and progression and explain what it takes for you to keep enjoying watchmaking years after years, assuming you still enjoy it?
there's no logical progression. I swear to you, when I was done with my apprenticeship and I finished um, my university degree in accounting, I was done with watchmaking. I sold my tools. I went to investment banking. I was like, never again. Like I don't have to work with my hands anymore. I have a degree, right? Like I achieved the goal I thought I wanted to achieve
Yeah.
in watchmaking, right? Which was to, have some money when I was a kid and to support myself going through college so that, I didn't have to take on any loans. Um, and from there, after investment banking, like you see the business side of things, and then the economy crashed, and guess what? Jobs were readily available as a watchmaker, right?
Mm.
So that kind of like naturally bled back in for me from a couple years of not being on the bench to back at it, working for Omega and Swatch Group brands. And then from there, like obviously, there was a choice I had to make was either a go to Switzerland and kind of be a trainer for Omega, which would entail like training the Middle East, not Middle East, it would train the Asian division for Omega Switzerland, or the option was to go work for Audemars Piguet. And, obviously I went with AP, and then the rest is history.
So now, do you still enjoy watchmaking?
Yeah, I do. It's the people you meet. It's the work you do. At the end of the day.
You're breaking up. Hello? Oh, we've lost Henry. Hello? Can you hear me?
No, I'm here. Sorry about that.
No, yeah. You're saying?
You know, at the end of the day.
I don't know how I feel about this question. I do agree with you in a couple points where it is the people you meet, it's the relationships you build. Taking a watch from start to finish that doesn't work or is inanimate, and making it work again, and having a function, having a beating again, like that part is fulfilling in and of itself. It might not feel like much when you complete it, but in the grand scheme of things, when you look back at it, you took something that wasn't working, you repaired it from start to finish, and it's now running perfectly fine until the next time you touch it. That stuff I enjoy. But I think everything else in watchmaking, I don't know if it's probably just the way I grew up in it. Like I've never had an interest in it. I probably, I'm probably hurting myself by saying this, but I probably still don't enjoy it. But I do appreciate it for what it's done and what it's given me. And I think maybe I think I'm more of an oddball when I say this, but like watchmaking is something where I do it because it still keeps me sharp, and it's something that I know I need to continue doing if I want to uh, keep excelling in the craft.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And you're not the only one, right? That has become disenchanted with watchmaking. I know a bunch of watchmakers who I used to work with that are no longer in the field, right? That have left the profession, left the schooling, left all the stuff that was provided to go into something completely different.
But speaking of this, I think almost everybody who started watchmaking. I mean, look at all the people who first started watchmaking back in the days. All the old school immigrants, all these individuals who started watchmaking because that was their only option, right? Like these are the people in the industry who are cool to talk to because they're from all different facets of life, and I find their personalities are interesting, very very interesting individuals. As opposed to people who actually join watchmaking because that's what they enjoy doing and they've gone into the field through that venue. It's two different personalities, and when you meet them, like the individual who actually enjoys watchmaking versus the individual who actually had to do watchmaking because it was necessary.
That's like that in almost every craft, right? Like no one likes to do construction. Maybe no one likes to do no one wants to become a plumber, or they just fall kind of into the trade of like this pays the bills. Let's continue doing this, and then whatever hopes and dreams that they had before is kind of like crushed with the fact that they have to make a living.
Now, what I think separate, what I think the both of them have in common is the fact, is the consistency and perseverance to continue watchmaking through tough times. How often have you? I mean, how often do you hear people graduate from watchmaking school and they quit within like a year or two after going to the field? It's way too common.
Yeah, because again, in one aspect, they're used to um, uh, they were in a 2-3 year environment, or even 4 years in some European schools, and they're sheltered from a lot of the client wants and needs and the pressure of running a workshop or maintaining your workshop. Because it's not always like, can I service this watch? It's client relations, it's managing expectations, it's under promising, over delivering, which
Mm.
is usually should be the case, but normally they over promise and under deliver And then, therein lies the problem, right?
Now, is that something that you do? Your company, do you? I mean, I try to overestimate and really deliver before the expectations. But is that something your company does as well?
Yeah, we try. We sometimes bake in longer lead times, um,
Because
just to
sometimes it
account.
does require the longer lead times. That's just the average.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Agreed.
What's the average time you tell someone for a service? I mean, I know it depends on the watch, but like your average.
So there's a couple factors. It depends on the amount of work the workshop has today, the the sorry about that.
Model, brand.
The average. What's up? Oh,
Depends on the model and the brand?
no, it depends on the workload we have, the amount of technical evaluations that the shop has to do. It's a bunch of factors, right? So normally the lead time we have is for 1 week, 1 week for a technical evaluation, and then after the evaluation, if you accept it, it's normally 3 to 6 weeks within that ballpark, right? Like
Mm.
just to account for any issues that might come up. If there are no issues, you'll have it back, within that 3 to 4 week time frame. If there are issues, it'll be communicated to you what the issue is, right? So like we just I took in a dear buddy of mine's vintage lapis style gold Rolex, um, and
Oh.
initially it was the watch was running smooth. Like you put it in a time machine, it looked decent. It didn't look like it needed anything, right? So I was like, all right, maybe like it won't need anything. But then like when it got deeper into the movement, it's like we found this the calendar cam dancing thing, whatever it's called. We found a hairline crack on it, um, and eventually the hairline. That's why there were some issues with it. But if we didn't catch that over time, then that hairline crack would have turned into a crack, and that those shards would have like those metal pieces would have been in the movement itself.
Mm.
So like it's a good thing we caught that early on. And obviously I communicated with them, let them know like this new watch you got won't be on your wrist because we're still having issues sourcing parts for this because of shelter in place and all the other watch companies shut down. So
Funny you mentioned that. There's what are your thoughts about cracked dials and clients wanting to keep them?
cracked dials. Listen, that's if you want to walk around with a cracked dial, that's fine, right? But it's up to the watchmaker to prevent any further, or if the watchmaker is good enough, they will try to prevent any of the shards or any of the debris or residue from that cracked dial from falling into the movement. So
Mm.
maybe on the back end, they can, solder it or like have a plate that kind of covers up that crack so it doesn't bleed into the movement and mess up the movement. But I mean, whatever the client wants is kind of like it's kind of like on them, right? Like you let them know the repercussions, right? Like the cracked dial, the the paint on the dial is gonna chip, it's gonna flake, it's gonna like over time erode, and it's gonna cause issues for your movement. But if this is what you want, then here's your watch. There's no guarantee. Like you essentially void any
Warranty,
warranties
yeah.
that I would have after servicing your watch.
See, I mean, I'm dealing with one right now. A client actually has a very, very old lacquered dial, and the dial is starting to flake and peel. And one of the requests was to keep it. And it's tough knowing the consequences of wanting to keep a dial like that because I know it's going to make its way into the movement and kill the service cycle and ultimately
So
having the watch come back.
why don't you let them know about the issue with this and just put the dial aside? Like, hey, listen,
That's one
the
option, yeah.
dials. Like I've told people that before. Like instead because normally when you send your watches into any of the big name brands, they'll take that dial, throw it in the trash can, put a new one on, like and they'll send the new watch back to you, right? And
Mm.
that'll obviously devalue any value you had in your vintage watch. So I tell them, listen, at the current state, like I don't recommend this. we could, if you want to wear it, we can put on a different dial, and then you can have this dial and put it in a safe somewhere. So when you want to sell it, you can put it on again. You know?
Yeah, there's some manufacturers, man, who I feel like they're almost ironclad when it comes to their stuff. Like it's yes or no. You know what I mean? If no, you don't want to do
Rolex,
it, then
Rolex is one of them.
hey, man, they get it done.
Rolex,
But they get it
we'll
done.
take we'll take that vintage watch and turn it into a brand new watch for you. Like eliminate $1 million watch, turn it into like a $20,000 watch.
Oh yeah, that's easy.
Because they will replace everything, right? That's within their job specs. You know,
Yeah.
that's what they do. So
Another
it's
reason to
hard.
support your local watchmaker. You know.
Yes. Or in your case, you would look at longevity of the timepiece. So
Yeah,
you
true.
would like you appreciate the fact that Rolex
Well, it
changes everything.
depends. It depends because if the watch is $3,000 in my eyes, but if I keep it the same and it's gonna be worth $500,000, then I don't know. I'm pretty sure I won't even get a service then.
Yeah, yeah. I would do the same thing. But then also you run into the issue of having a rusted movement in the bag if you don't have someone look at it. You know.
Yeah, it's tough. Blah, blah, blah. Let me take a look at this. What other questions? Favorite music style?
Mm. This has nothing to do with watchmaking. But
There's nothing to
for
do with
sure,
watchmaking.
I listen to everything, anything and everything, right? Like um, rap, hip hop, techno, freaking jazz.
Rap?
Um, yeah, dude. When I'm driving, or I need to get to point A to point B fast,
Oh, look at
uh,
you, speedster, huh?
putting on 50 Cent, Wankster,
Oh boy.
and I'm speeding, and then obviously Phil Collins, um, Nirvana. I listen to everything. Like there's like ATB, DJ Tiesto. Like I don't. There's no one I don't listen to. Right? It depends on the mood, depends on what I'm doing. I'll put on some Chopin if I'm working on a document. Uh, when I'm training, like I'll put on some, Eminem. When I'm trying to chill out early in the morning, I'll put on "Summertime Sadness" by Lana Del Rey and
Oh
blast it
boy.
like. And I would play it so that um, anyone in the general vicinity will know that song as
Oh,
it's Henry's waking up theme song.
please don't tell me you're the type of guy who puts a song on repeat over and over and over again if you like something.
Oh yeah, of course. Why wouldn't you? I like it, so I want to listen to it over and over and over again. And if people are generally around the vicinity, that's on them. They'll like that song too,
Oh
or they'll
boy.
start singing with me by like the fourth, the fifth, the sixth time.
For some reason, I picture you listening to Mad World when you have Watch That Comes Back.
No,
Hello,
it's
hello,
hello darkness,
darkness.
my
Oh boy. All right.
Simon
Next.
and Garfunkel. Yeah.
Um, this question is: I know your thoughts. I know your predictions for the watchmaking trajectory, but what are Henry's thoughts on the current state of watchmaking?
Oof, oof. That's a loaded statement. So first and foremost, um, I am in a very lucky position, right? I'm fortunate to do something I enjoy doing with a team of people that also are with me as well. And there are a lot of people who aren't as lucky as I am, right? So I posted within our chat, like our personal track group, if someone needs help or anything, like if there's anything I do, reach out. Like I'm not a millionaire, by no means have a lot of money, but we're all in this kind of together, in this predicament, right? So I think we'll all get through it. It's just it's a bump in the road, like with every other bump in the road. Sometimes some might take longer than others, but eventually everything will bounce back over time.
Do you think the watchmaking will be back better than ever, or do you think watchmaking will just be a former show?
You know, it's tricky because this current landscape, if it hasn't shown you anything other than nothing is set in stone. No one knew Basel Fair, SIHH, like all these like big names were not going to we're gonna stop doing shows. Once brand names start pulling out, like there goes majority of their funding, right? So nothing is set in stone, and to say I'm not gonna say one thing and like something else is gonna happen, right? But I know that people are resilient, and you know, like cars, like vintage cars, and mechanical and pens and any other like this is no one needs to have a watch. It's
True.
not an absolute need. You can pick up your phone, you can turn on your computer, open your mobile tablet, and the time is there. There's $1 trillion industry behind maintaining that like centralized time to make sure it's perfect, and it'll beat any mechanical timepiece in timekeeping, to this day,
Mm-hmm.
unless you're a quartz watch, and that's a different story. But as far as timekeeping, this is not something that's important, right?
Mm-hmm.
To other people, there's values that this timepiece has. This mechanical timepiece speaks to them.
Yeah.
But that's not like it's not bread, it's not water, it's not critical infrastructure. So I feel like this is yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think it's tough, man. I think watchmaking. I think post COVID, I think watchmaking will be better than before. I think but then again, I don't know. Maybe that's just my biased views. It's my opinion. Okay, I know a lot of people will disagree with me. I've actually had several individuals reach out to me and disagree with me. That's fine. I think like a lot. I think that with the whole COVID situation, e-commerce has been the breaking point for me in saying this. Because back in the days, almost every single watch brand dealt with difficulty in increasing e-commerce sales because of that face-to-face interaction that a lot of these clients want. Now with the whole COVID situation and all the global lockdown, let's just say, um, I think that's increased the likelihood and bridged that gap for people. And I think
So
post-COVID, I think that's going to be even. It's you're going to have the return of face-to-face sales and offline sales with the added increase of sales from e-commerce.
so here's the thing about that is I had a discussion with a couple buddies about that, right? I feel like the people who already did business with you, who already had the client experience, who had that handshake on Madison Avenue or that champagne glass before the deal was shut, I feel like those people will go to e-commerce. That's good, but
Mm-hmm.
you won't get someone brand new walking off the street onto a website like doing like purchasing for that brand experience because right now these 3 months, 4 months, like that experience is gone.
Oh, for
Right?
sure, for sure. And I think that
There's
was one of my talking points. I think the next biggest issue that the industry is going to have now is making that transition from offline to online, and what the brands are going to be worried about is making that is having that same experience offline now online. You know what I mean? That's going to be one of their
it's
biggest
hard.
issues. Yeah, it's going to be really tough because
And that's a hurdle, right? Because a lot of people, I mean, there's a good, like me and we're like watchmaking, servicing. It's a repeat client business, right? So if you do right by people the first time, they normally will recommend you, and you normally get their work again, right?
yeah.
Right? But for sales, for retail, that's not the case, right? You're anticipating um, new client, fresh blood, right? To be able to sell, to have the experience. Why do you think all these stores on Madison Ave are all so fancy,
But see,
right?
I think the transition is actually going to be a lot simpler than they think. I think so. The same concept of having a service, the same concept of having a sales associate help you in person will be the same way that someone would have an private online chat with someone that's one on one and automatically becomes their designated salesperson. You know what I mean? And then from there, it's just ensuring that constant communication, that transparency, that
I
catering.
disagree. I completely disagree. Because
Why?
how many times have you sent a text message, or sent an email where the tonality, the context is completely taken out of place?
Well,
You know,
well, that I understand, but the medium
right?
doesn't
So like,
necessarily have to be text. Like they could be communicating through the phone. But that initial transaction was online. because very seldom are you going to have anyone just go online and purchase something first, right away. It's a matter of they're going to be browsing for a little bit. They're going to revisit the web page several times through over a couple weeks. And then finally, one night after like 8 drinks in, or one morning when they're like most productive, they're going to make that snap call and say, all right, I want this. I mean, that's just that's just looking at behavior. That's kind of looking at how I would, like, for example, for me, like sometimes, I don't know about you, but sometimes when I want to purchase something from Amazon, let's just say, when I put it in my cart, like I'm hell bent on purchasing. But when I put it in my cart, I will second guess myself and say, do I really need it? Maybe not. And then I'll leave it in the cart and revisit it maybe, I don't know, 2, 3 times in a week. And then maybe one of those days, I'm just like, all right, you know what? Screw it. I'm not going to think about this anymore. I'm just going to pick it up.
Okay. All right. Next question. This is boring me.
Oh, look at you.
Sorry, I don't mean to be a diva, but like, I want to keep everyone entertained. I want to make sure that this is providing either A, entertainment, or B, information. So let's stick to the watchmaking of bullshit, buddy.
Okay. Top pet peeves in watch clients. So the last one was top pet peeves in repairs. The same person put top pet peeves for watch clients.
How about you start off with that one, Anthony?
Top pet peeves.
Mm-hmm.
I think that one of my pet peeves is clients who. Okay, well, first things first. Having educated clients is very, very important. But at the same time, you can also be overeducated and bring too much to the table. For example, if a client's coming to me with a watch repair, I don't necessarily, I don't need them to tell me everything that they think is wrong with the watch. I just need them to tell me what is wrong with the watch. I don't need them to tell me what they think is the solution to the problem. I don't know if that makes any
Okay.
sense.
I think what you're driving at the same issue I have, right? A, I don't need someone to tell me how to do my job,
Yes.
right? And B,
That's a simpler way to put it, I guess.
Again, I'm a razor buddy, like watchmaking and no bullshit and like bullshit. But so here's the thing, right? I appreciate you not telling me how to do my job, because if let's say you can be a medical professional, but you still won't tell a doctor like this is what you should do for me.
Yeah.
So let me do my job. But B, I appreciate all the information that you have that you bring to the table, right? Like,
Yes. Yes.
I like the fact that you said during this time my watch was not keeping time, but during this time it was working fine. And then I'll also ask you, like, what are the environmental factors? Did you run more that day? Did you exercise more?
Yeah.
Were you at the gym? You know what I mean? Like, all this stuff helps me craft a hypothesis on what might be the issue with the timepiece when I kind of take it apart, knowing this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, what are your thoughts on when clients tell you, like when you tell them the solution and they tell you no? So, for example, let's just say a watch. Let's say someone comes through with a comeback and they say, my watch isn't keeping time, and you ask them if they wound it 30, 40 times, and they say they did. But let's say you put it in the reader, and clearly after winding it 30, 40 times, it's running fine.
Then I asked them, maybe there's something else maybe there's an underlying issue of something they're doing to the watch that I'm not doing. Like sometimes people, either A, won't wind it, B, won't wear it long enough, or they'll wear it without winding it. And the issue is, like, what I'm trying to replicate is I'm trying to replicate the issue of the comeback.
Yeah.
Like I'm not at odds here, because I want to also figure out what's wrong. There are times where it's like I'm not 100% correct. Like, we had a recent vintage GMT with a calendar, like one of the 2, 3 of the teeth were like slightly marred, and every time the calendar would hit 12 o'clock, the watch would stop. Right? A, the watch automatic system worked perfectly. B, we wound it 40 times, the watch ran like as it should, but every time you would put it down to do the final timing, it would stop at 12. And like, okay, so it's not A, the automatic, it's not B, the winding, something else is the issue. You know what I mean? Like, so you would drill down in the watch, and then you find the issue.
All right. Well, I guess that answers our pet peeve.
I guess we have the same pet peeves.
I know, right?
Stop
Thoughts,
telling me how to do my job.
thoughts, thoughts on watches as an investment.
It is. It's good. I mean, I like it. I mean, a lot of people buy Pateks, they buy APs, they buy precious metals, so to speak. So platinum, gold, silver.
See, I used to think that. Now, let me ask you this: the practical side of the practical application of it is how often are you going to sell it? Like, how long does it hold its value?
You know, sometimes it's not up to you to sell. It's up to like maybe your grandkids, or it's maybe up to whoever, Because let's be realistic. Like a lot of people, like they buy these vintage watches, like these like really high-end watches from these auction houses, and they shove it into a safe. They're not going to take it out 5 years later and resell
Yeah.
it. I mean, some people do, right? Some people like are like, oh, the market's hot now. I'm going to go like release a bunch of vintage Omega Speedmasters, which was the case a couple years ago,
Yeah.
right? Like the Speedmaster market was like there's an influx of like caliber 321, and then the vintage market went up and everyone was selling these like 20, 30, 40 a pop.
Now, one thing I still don't agree with this in the watchmaking side. I still don't agree with how the market value. Like, I understand capitalistic ideas, like how the market determines value of something, but like I see some of these posts on Instagram and it's showing the value of some of these watches going up or going down. But then you look at the source and it's like they're just basing the source off an average of how much a watch is put on price for on a website. And I'm like, that doesn't that's not how it works. You know what I mean?
Yes, it is. I mean,
Look,
I get because it's at its core fundamental, it's supply and demand. If
sure,
there is
I understand that.
if there
Yeah,
is more demand, little supply, that drives the numerical value of the timepiece up.
like I understand I understand the comp value of things, like the comparable values of something exact model, exact things. I understand that. But the for someone to go on and say this is the current price of something, it's not factual because that's not the price that people are buying it at right now. That's the price that sellers are putting it at. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So if you look at the stock market, there's a sell price and there's a bid price. Both the prices are normally very different.
Yeah,
So yeah. So there's what's actually listed and there's what is actually being sold for.
maybe that's why I don't really like vintage watches so much. I don't know. Like I think
Listen,
like
it's hard to ascertain the um, the value because you have to put like there's a lot of factors that you have to equate into the value of vintage timepiece. And James from Analog Shift and his team, I don't mean to name drop, but like they do it well, right? Like they do a good job in New York and overall the world um, pricing vintage timepieces.
yeah, I just hope everyone knows that I'm only joking when it comes to me saying that I dislike vintage watches. Although I do have a little disdain for vintage.
He hates it. You see his post on patina?
Oh boy. Oh, actually, this segue into this question already. I know you dislike vintage, but what about Henry? Sorry, I didn't mean to ask that question already.
No, I'm cool with it.
You cool with it?
Like every timepiece that's brought over to me, it's a book. It's a puzzle waiting to be solved. It's a book waiting to be read, right? So as you pull back the pages, um, yeah, we understand the movement and we get it running again. Friends like yes, score.
I know some people like to work on vintage watches because there's that added flair of like that unknown variable, like that stuff I can understand. But from
I don't like the unknown variable, right? That's the issue, right? But the unknown variable sometimes,
but you're gonna be
like if
dealing with
you're
that with vintage watches all the time. There's always that unknown
yes,
variable.
yeah, yeah, and then the hard part is like you have to put your thinking hat on and like, hey, how can I solve this problem?
I can't tell if that's a passive aggressive dig at me again. you, you need your
No, no,
thinking
no,
hat.
never. No, 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 never. I mean, you don't need one. You constantly have your
Uh
hat
huh.
on. So I'm not trying to take a dig. I would never Anthony. I respect you too much.
Okay, so we're gonna we're gonna answer this last question, and then we'll call it wraps. It's been about an hour so far. This question is, the I know you preach the application of watchmaking often. Does this apply to every watchmaker?
Wait, what?
I think what the question is saying is, okay, so I've been preaching, let's just say, the applications of watchmaking to everyday life, right? So the question
Okay.
here is saying, does this apply to every watchmaker? Is every single watchmaker able to do this as well?
That's a loaded statement. Uh, there are people who can take something, can take a set of skills, conceptualize it, and apply it to their lives. And there are other people who take a set of skills of what they've learned and like execute those set of skills based upon what they will only learn.
Mm.
So there are people. Some people can grow from it. Some people will stick to, like, like if you draw a circle around an ant, they won't know any better, but they'll stick within that circle.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So
Yeah.
if I go to the park right now, I drew a circle around an ant, they'd be trapped.
Yeah, put an ant. I saw it on YouTube, so it must be true. So it's a piece of white paper.
Oh boy.
Get a tweezer, pick up an ant, put an ant on the white piece of paper, and then draw a circle around it with a pen, and he'll stay within that circle.
Huh. Okay. I have to put that to the test.
Yeah, please let me know. Let me know your findings. And don't hurt. I don't want you to hurt your brain too much brain cells in doing that.
Did you see this new egg challenge that's going around online? Essentially, what they do is they put an egg between your bicep and your forearm, right in between the crease of your elbow, and you flex. Okay, and you can't assist your arm, but you flex. And the egg challenge is, can you crack the egg with the egg in between your biceps and your forearm?
Did you try it?
I have not tried it yet, but I'm very interested to know if you can crack it.
You know what you should also do? You should go on Facebook and tag someone on a picture and say, like, this is like my 10 pictures for 10 days and some
That
stupid shit
nomination,
like that.
that nomination thing.
Yeah, you should go do that as well.
I think that's so stupid. I think that's so silly. Like, I don't see the value in that.
Yeah, I don't see the value putting egg between your bicep and your forearm.
Putting an egg between your bicep and your forearms for shits and giggles, okay? Nominating someone for some 10-day stupid ass challenge doesn't do much.
Some people do it for shits and giggles.
Okay, we're gonna end it up now. Henry, you have anything you want to plug? You have anything you want to promote? Anything you want to say?
No. Thank you guys for listening. Feel free to like, add, subscribe. I'm thinking of adding more people. Like, I was talking to Heinrich. I was gonna chat with a lot of like other industry personnel to kind of like poke them, get them on the show, and pick their brains on different things. And please keep the questions coming. Keep all this. This is good, right? Then we're trying to break up the monotony of this 4 month shelter in place, like, craziness.
Yeah.
So hopefully this brightens up your lives.
All right, we're gonna end it up there, guys. Take care. If you guys haven't, like Henry said, liked or subscribed, if you want to leave a review, please do so. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great day and take care.
Hugs and kisses.